We also need the Government of Canada to address the fundamental unfairness that First Nations face every day. Unfairness that results from policies such as the cap of 2% on funding growth for core programs and services like housing and infrastructure, social and economic development and education, while growth in services to other Canadians through health and social transfers runs at more than 3 times that rate. This is not a theoretical math problem. It means that while inflation matches that 2% cap, and our population grows at the fastest rate in the country, 3.5 times the national average, our communities fall further and further behind. In the 12 years since this cap was introduced, First Nation governments have lost over 25% in real purchasing power. Notwithstanding the government's announcement yesterday that there are still over 100 First Nation communities who continue to live without clean water. We cannot say at this time that the new strategy will resolve that situation, because it appears that the investment represents monies that were unspent and reprofiled in the recent budget. We understand that, in fact, based on our analysis, that infrastructure funding, in fact, will go down, will be reduced by $250 million over the next 2 years. The cap means that 27,000 of our children end up in state care, stripped of their families and the love that every child has a right to expect. This is 3 times the number of children that were in residential schools during the height of the residential school experience. It means that development is stymied and despair continues while people struggle to lift themselves from the grinding poverty that robs them of hope. While this government has moved to create loans for market housing, and we applaud them for this decision, nothing has been done for social housing. This means that there are 90,000 First Nations people without a home, and another 90,000 whose houses are badly in need of major repairs to deal with the mold, asbestos, and vermiculite that results from the shoddy way in which they were originally built. We have too many First Nations children and families living in trailers. These are fire trap hazards, and the 3 First Nations children and their uncle who perished in a house trailer fire in Pukatawagan in northern Manitoba on March 11 highlights the urgency of the housing crisis for First Nation communities. And I was at the funeral. It was a very sad moment for that community, because there is really no need for this tragic fire to have occurred. The grandmother of these 3 boys that were aged 5, 4, and 3 is the chief of that community, Chief Shirley Castell. The 2% cap means that in 39 communities across this country, children have no school to go to, and in the rest there are insufficient tools for modern education and insufficient funds to pay teachers. At a time when everyone recognizes that education is the single most important element in building a positive and hopeful future, First Nations children are denied by their government funded at greater than 2%, $2,000 less per child than other Canadian students. I actually have more to go here, so I'm going to jump a few pages. Right, you have a copy of my written text, so I will go to the end of my written presentation, and I want to talk specifically, of course, about Kelowna and the agreement that we reached with Canada and the 13 other jurisdictions plus 5 national organizations. We recognize that the Kelowna Accord was not the total answer, but it represented a significant first step in implementing a comprehensive plan that was the result of 18 months of long, hard work, a process that engaged approximately 1,000 people, a plan that was a direct result of a challenge that was posed to President Chartier and I and the 3 other national Aboriginal leaders by the Council of the Federation when we went to them for support. They said to us, if you can convince us through a plan of the support you need, and if you have a plan that has real outcomes and targets, we will support you. So that 18-month process that engaged 1,000 of our people had real targets and real outcomes. It was a plan. And a central feature of the plan had to do with accountability and governance. Because we understood that accountability was a major concern with with a good number of people. And we wanted to be able to demonstrate that we were committed to accountability and transparency and good government. And so we insisted that the plan include work that was related to putting together an institution that would, in fact, speak to the issue of accountability. And that one of those institutions was our own Auditor General. And the proposition was supported by the Auditor General, Sheila Fraser. We also recommended creating an ombudsman, and I apologize for not being politically correct here. These would have been, in our view, two important institutions that, if properly structured, would have given comfort to a lot of people that wanted us to demonstrate to them that we are committed to governance and accountability. And so we wonder now what will occur, right? Because we were promised in the last election that the government would put wheels on Kelowna. They also made it very clear that they agreed with the targets and the outcomes. They didn't necessarily agree with the process, but that they would, and they also said that they would work with provincial and territorial governments to give effect to the plan. So we still believe that the plan is, as it was then, a good opportunity for us, a process that would enable this country to turn the corner on this issue that has plagued successive governments, and this is about First Nations poverty. And we, of course, are very disappointed that we haven't been able to give effect to this plan, and we don't know what will happen. We hope that you will do the right thing and that you will support Bill C-292. Thank you.
Thank you, National Chief.